I'm Donna O'Kelly, formerly known as Donna Brandt. I've been at ODE for quite a while, and I've worked with CTE since 2010. So it's been a little while. I'm retired from ODE, and I'm back working on some special projects. And one of them is to help kind of shepherd some work around something that at the secondary level or at the K-12 level is referred to the aligning for student success. Aligning for Student Success, which is an integration of 6 programs at K-12. And we're one of those 6 programs. So it's kind of caused a little bit of a ripple in our Perkins programming. And so we wanted to talk with you today a little bit about some of those changes and what might be the same and might be the different for you as you move forward. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And I'm going to turn off my camera because I always have to look over here and it makes me feel funny. So I'm going to turn off my camera and you all can see my screen, I'm guessing. Mohammed, can you see my screen? All right, good. All right, so here we are. This, again, this presentation is primarily for our post-secondary direct recipients of the Carl Perkins funds. And we've already introduced ourselves, but I would like to know, Chula, how long you have been involved with Perkins? Maybe are you just getting started? Have you been at it for a while? And Andy, if you want to also chime in with the same information.
Yeah, I've been working on the grant with PCC for about 10 years. And then before that, I worked full-time at PCC.
Awesome, thank you. Andy?
Yeah, I think this is my 14th year doing this. So.
And Andy, I'm not sure that Mohammed would know where you work. Do you want to tell which institution you work at?
All of them. So I cover the state. I'm responsible for the traditional CTE programs and 13 training standards for BOLI apprenticeships and their training programs. I also do all of the food handler cards for the department as well as other things as needed.
Right, and Andy works for the Department of Corrections, so he's with the Adult Corrections Programming. Awesome, thank you very much. So just a friendly reminder, when we went into Perkins 5, what is it, maybe like 3 or 4 years ago now, it seems like, there were some changes that were made at that time. Perkins 5 brought a 4-year plan. It also brought that needs assessment requirement. So we were required to go and engage with a bunch of different community partners to determine our needs, to use that information on a needs assessment, and to develop that 4-year plan. And then this slide is kind of cyclical, but the ability to update that 4-year plan every 2 years. And so that was something new that Perkins 5 brought on that was not present in Perkins 4. As we move forward into the 23-27 school years, it's kind of funny to think you all are just submitting your applications for the 22-23 school year. So this is work that goes into effect for the next grant cycle. But we're talking to you about it now because it actually starts now for a lot of the work that's being done. So I said that there was this thing called Aligning for Student Success at the K-12 level. And what we have done is we have integrated the 6 programs you see here on your screen that are currently in the K-12 system into a single integrated needs assessment application, budget plan kind of an exercise. Because the belief is that all of these programs work together toward these 4 common goals that are listed here. And so all of us are working toward a well-rounded education, advanced equity, and engaged community, and making sure we've got very strong systems and the capacity to run those systems. And so with those 4 goals in place, these 6 programs, we are integrating those approaches, and we're also meeting a legislative mandate to try to streamline and to reduce the amount of administrative burden on our K-12 system. So one of the things that, or these are 4 things that we view as being advantages of doing this integrated guidance. It's a new opportunity for CTE to become an integral part of the K-12 landscape as far as improvement efforts. It also provides a new opportunity for outside audiences, audiences outside of who we typically talk to. We're going to continue to do a lot of the work that we're already doing, just adjust the rhythms. And again, like I said, we're looking for ways to reduce redundancies and really to leverage the work that we're doing. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later about why this is important to you. So the nuts and bolts around the Perkins engagement, needs assessment, application, and budget. As you know, you've been in Perkins for a while. Every Perkins recipient must now conduct a needs assessment, regardless of if you're in a consortium or not. In that needs assessment and engagement, all of the Perkins required questions have to be addressed. You have to engage certain partners to collect the information. And one of the things that we're reiterating or asking again is that you make sure that you share the results of your needs assessment with your CTE regional coordinator. Now, you're not a part of their basic grant writing, you're not a part of their consortia, but you are a participant in their reserve grant work. And so when they're identifying their regional needs, they should be taking into account the information that you gather through your needs assessment as well. And so please make sure that you're sharing the results of the needs assessment with your CTE regional coordinator so they can synthesize that information into their reserve application. And Melinda put in the chat to me, sorry, it was a direct message, but yes, this slide presentation will be available in just a few minutes. The Perkins requirements, the required questions for the needs assessment are listed here on the screen. Evaluating student performance, disaggregated, looking at your CTE programs of study in terms of if they're of sufficient size, scope, and quality, and whether they meet industry need as far as economic development. Progress toward implementing your programs, looking at making sure you're recruiting, retaining, and training your teachers, especially or instructors, including instructors that are underrepresented. And then progress toward equal access to high quality CTE courses and programs. And so looking at barriers that may exist and how you might overcome those, making sure that your programs are designed to enable special populations. And we'll talk about that term special populations in just a second. And then looking at making sure that we're preparing all of our students for high skill, high wage, and in-demand industries. And so those have been in place and those continue to be in place. Just a reminder of who our required community partners are, according to Perkins. So CTE educators at the secondary and post-secondary level. This includes your advisors, your instructors, deans, etc. Also your secondary partners that may be providing the pipeline for you of students that would be coming in. Workforce boards, regional or local business and industry, students and parents, representatives of focal students, representatives of agencies that serve out-of-school youth, homeless youth, at-risk youth, representatives of tribes if that is required as far as consultation, and any other partners required by the state. Something that's cool and new, yay, is your needs assessment. So HEC CCWD has spent some time over the spring and into the summer, and they will be totally revamping the CTE post-secondary needs assessment so that it focuses on processes that are important to you, processes that are already in place, kind of leveraging those tools that you already have in hand. And that new needs assessment will be available to you at the summer CTE meeting. The Perkins application, the things that will remain the same is you're going to use your needs assessment results, develop the 4-year plan, There's a little language change. We're going to identify outcome strategies and activities. I think it used to be benchmark goals and benchmarks, but now we're going to use the term outcome strategies and activities in order to align with the whole system. And then you have to answer those required questions. Some things that are different is the submission process has changed, I think, every year that I've been back as a temp. We used a paper submission back in the day. We used SM Apply for a little while. We used a Google form, I think, this past year. And what's coming is a Smartsheet dashboard that we're in the process of developing so that the secondary, post-secondary, and consortia dashboards all look the same. Something that's different also is you're submitting a 2-year application and budget. And we have said like it's a 2-year application, but we really mean like you're going to submit it in June of 2023, and it's going to go for 2 years. You don't have to go back and submit it again the next year or really do anything with that application. It is really a 2-year application. But what will change will be there's quarterly progress reporting. So you'll be able to say, these are the things we've been doing. This is how we're changing it. So rather than every year updating it in kind of a grand way, it'll be just like quick check-ins every quarter. As far as the budget goes, it's a 2-year budget as well. We're asking you to use 85% of the allocation that you will receive next year for planning purposes. One of the things that's really different is in the past, we've had you budget down to the penny on everything. And in the new budget, you will need to budget a majority of the funds for both of those 2 years, but it's okay for you to have some unallocated funds as well. There's this new thing that we're going to put into place called tiered budgeting, and that's the opportunity to get prior approval for items that you've agreed on that they would be helpful or would be like the next up items if something changes. And again, the quarterly reporting. Some of the things that will remain the same is that your budget still needs to be aligned to your identified outcome strategies and activities. And you have to follow the allowable use of funds and all of those fun federal rules that Reynolds likes to talk with you about. So a little bit more about tiered budgeting. Like I said, it allows you to kind of ahead of time agree like, so if we have a shift in implementation, we're not able to do this the way we thought, you're able to pivot and be more nimble in how you proceed. You know, we've had some problems with ordering and with personnel changes. And so again, this just kind of decreases that administrative burden to go back and forth and get each little change approved. You can do it kind of all up front. So the application and budget will be available for you to preview in fall of 2022. It's not due until June of 2023. And again, we're asking you to submit a copy of that to your CTE regional coordinators so they can help to synthesize that information for the reserve grant. So I'm going to stop sharing for just a minute and see if anyone has any questions or comments so far. And Melinda, I appreciate you cleaning up my acronyms there.
No worries. I figured we had some folks that maybe hadn't heard those before.
Okay, so straightforward, I'm just going to be a talking head for you guys today. All right, well, I'm going to share again and we'll get on to some like how you might prepare for some of these changes that we've been talking about. So preparing for change. One of the things that's changing as we move into this next 2-year cycle is the use of the term special populations. In our state plan and in our work moving forward, we have changed the term, the federal term from the Perkins Law of special populations to focal student groups. We've done this in order to align our language and the language of the K-12 system so that we're all talking about the same types of students that we are supporting through our instruction. So you'll see here a listing of students that are considered as focal student groups. Hold on just one second. Everyone's still there, right? It's just all the cameras are off.
Yes.
Okay, good. All of a sudden everything went blank. Okay, y'all can turn your cameras off. I'm good. It was just all of a sudden it changed. Mohammed. Okay, so focal students, the ones that are bold are specifically called out in Perkins is why it looks like that. And let me show you a different way to look at it. In addition to the Perkins definition, these students are specifically called out as focal student groups. So students of color, LGBTQ2 SIA plus students, migrant students, recent arrivals, incarcerated and detained youth and adults. So those are added to our definition of focal students. And then students that are called out in Perkins, but are not specifically called out as focal students are our non-trad students. And for Mohammed, non-trad students are by gender. So if a career area is typically dominated by male participants, then non-trad, that would be non-trad for females. And so non-trad is called out as a special population, and we are putting them under those who have historically experienced disparities in our schools. We also have single parents and those who are pregnant, out of workforce individuals, and parents or members of the armed forces. So all of these now are part of the focal student groups. One of the Aligning for Student Success diagrams is shown here. It's a typical 12-step planning and application process, but I love the simplicity and the beauty of it. So I wanted to share it with you today. Step 1 and step 2 are around organizing your thinking and planning, and then preparing your materials for community and staff engagement. So I'm thinking that as colleges, the materials that you would likely prepare would be that information around your programs. What types of programs do you have? How are your students doing in those programs? What are the demographics of students? Thinking about students that complete your programs, what kind of job opportunities do they have? What high school programs align? Things like that. Then engaging with your community, completing a comprehensive needs assessment based on the information that you gain through that engagement, then moving through a review process, looking at your outcomes, aligning strategies, getting feedback like, hey, did we hear you right? This is what we think that we heard through our engagement processes. Does this seem like we're getting at what you're looking for? Then gathering ideas around activities, investments, writing up a plan, checking your plan, and then submitting your plan. So awesome 12-step process, right? And for our post-secondary direct folks, this might start most likely in like February, March in our typical cycles. But as I said, we would probably need to look at stepping this up or changing it a little bit. So what you need to know about your K-12 partners is that right now they're doing step 1 and 2. They're supposed to engage with their partners in the fall. So in like September, October, and then their needs assessment, they're supposed to target having that complete in December, January. So that's considerably different from what we've known in the past. Then they start writing their plan and reviewing, looking at their outcomes, getting some feedback, getting their activities identified, writing their plan. And then guess what? They have to send it to their school board for approval and get community feedback and submit their plan by March, which is typically about the time that our normal routines and rhythms would be, we would just about be getting started with Perkins. So you can see that things have kind of condensed for our K-12 folks. But that doesn't mean you've got a lot of time to wait. And here's why. Remember the slide from the beginning where we talked about, like, this is a new opportunity for CTE to become kind of more embedded into the K-12 landscape, and for us to start talking to people that we may not typically talk to about CTE. So this is a huge opportunity for you as colleges to get out there and start talking about what your value add is in the K-12 community. So some things that you could do, like we talked about, would be to start working with your ESD liaisons, which I can help you find those. Melinda can help you find those. Your CTE regional coordinators, I'm guessing you know who those are. District leaders who you work with regular with your CTE programs of study, and your deans and other leaders in the college, to start thinking about what kinds of information would you like to have available as those district leaders are sitting down to think about what their needs are on the whole K-12 system. To think about, oh, how does accelerated learning play into this? What kinds of pipelines are available for students? How are we making career information available to our students in the K-12 system? What is the labor market telling us for what kinds of programs would lead to high wage, high demand careers? How might our colleges help? And the reason that's important, I don't need to tell you, is because of enrollment, retention, those kinds of things, and just having a real strong pipeline, whether that's to your 2-year or your 4-year transfer degree programs. So some things you can do now to assist in the fall would be to update some of these things and to look at your data. You know your CTE regional coordinator is a partner for you in all of these different things. And right now they're working with Melinda and Megan Helserman and others to really do a deep dive into understanding what the labor market information is telling us, what qualityinfo.org, how we can use that, what it tells us, what it doesn't. And they're hoping to work with their partners in post-secondary and their workforce partners at the August meeting to help develop more resources to share with the district. So please connect with your regional coordinator and see what's going on with them as far as that goes. Here's a timeline. Luis always asks for a timeline. So here's the timeline as best I can tell it. This blue is time when it would behoove you to really engage and work with your partners at the secondary level, with all the education partners in the region, all of those things. So collaborate and connect. How can you be a part of the planning? What kinds of things might you be able to offer to support the K-12? Update your program information. In the fall, when they come back and they start engaging, collaborate, figure out how you can get to the table. And then they'll be turning in their application. In the spring, it's time for you to do your engagement, finish engagement, because you will be able to use a lot of the engagement activities that the secondary folks did. Complete your needs assessment, work on your budget, make sure you share it with the regional coordinator, and then June 30th, you turn your budget in. So that was a pretty simple look, kind of a high-level flyover of what things look like for our direct post-secondary applicants. Be on the lookout for more guidance and tools. Please participate in any trainings or meetings that you hear about in your local districts, and make opportunities to be at the table to talk about how your programs at the colleges can really impact our students and our school system, even starting very early. So there's the for more information screen and people to contact. And I guess I will open it up for any questions.
I was just going to say thanks for recording these presentations. I've been watching the ones from the past. They've been really helpful. And I just want to say that I really appreciate that.
Thank you. I'm dropping a link to the slides into the chat so that you'll have those. Thank you for that feedback. This is like well in advance of when you're going to need some of this information, but we wanted people to start thinking and preparing for what's coming in the fall. I mean, it's really coming in the fall for our districts, and you as colleges can position yourselves in a really good way if you get prepared ahead of time. Access, please. Got it. There you go. The access should be updated. Hey, Jan, welcome. How are you doing?
Sorry, I couldn't get out of another meeting.
That's okay. We met without you.
It's okay. Joel Hoot is there. She's my helper, so she's
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, she's been here. Are there any other questions that came about or anything that we can help you with at this point? And Jan, as you probably heard, we did record it and we'll make that available after we edit it a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is this as many people as on the meeting?
This is it. There's only 5 direct grant recipients. And so,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, sorry. I was like, come on, folks, wrap up, wrap up. They weren't wrapping up.
That's okay. All right, well, hearing and seeing no questions, I guess we will gift back 30 minutes in your calendar. And I really do thank you for showing up today and being part of the conversation.
Great. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
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 Appreciate it.